All right. Enough talk about Ireland. Let's transition over to some hunting-related topics.
Can we just keep talking about Ireland?
Come on now, because I know you got like big bucks on your trail cameras out there, right?
No, I really don't.
Dude, I don't either.
I lost my access this year. It's November 1st when we're talking, and I've been in the tree stand twice. I have no idea when I will be back. I don't want to talk about hunting. It's just going to piss me off.
Well, how about fishing?
For you, I will. But, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. So I've had this lease for 2 years. I've yet to see anything that really gets my heart pumping. Like, there's one buck that I'm like, yeah, if he shows up, I'm totally killing him. But, I mean, is it such a thing that, and for those listenings, it's not like I have 1 or 2 cameras. I literally have 18 cameras on 80 acres. I know exactly what's going on basically everywhere. And I don't know, is there such a thing as like a doe and spike only lease? I don't know.
I mean, if there is, it's probably in Wisconsin or Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan would be the other place you might find a doe and spike lease.
Yeah.
And anybody, again, if you've listened to me on other podcasts or the SpyPoint podcast or whatever, you've probably heard this, so you're zoning out. I don't usually get too worked up about that because my preference is always to hunt a doe home range rather than a buck because does are way more tolerant.
That's true.
Doe isn't going to relocate because she ran into a hunter on a given day. Now, you can't get stupid. You can't blow her out of there every day. Eventually, she'll relocate. But does just have deeper roots. And if the does live there, you may not have bucks on October 1st, but by November 1st, my whole thing is stomach, girls, stomach. You want to hunt bucks, it's stomach, it's girls, and it's stomach. And if you're hunting his stomach, you don't have the margin for error that you do when you're hunting him when he's in girl mode. So I would always much rather have the does and no bucks and then just go hunt and be surprised and shoot something that gets my blood going than watch a buck all summer, season opens, he disappears, and somebody half a mile away kills him because he relocated as the season changed, and that's where he's at now. That's just my preference. I would rather roll the dice for the month of November on bucks showing up to have a dance with my does rather than trust myself to not screw up hunting a buck.
Well, and that is a good point. Every time people are like, well, if you're seeing all these does, why don't you shoot a couple, put some meat in your freezer? And I'm like, yeah, after the rut, I will. But if you kill all the does, then there's no reason for the bucks to come cruising in. And yeah, I shouldn't be such a pessimist because realistically, the whole point of the rut is that a buck will expand their home range, and you'll have some guy show up on a Wednesday morning that's never stepped foot on your property, not once ever, and present you with a shot. So I suppose I shouldn't be such a pessimist, so we'll see what happens. I will be in the tree stand.
Just for the record, though, if we're relying on me to be the optimist in the podcast, we already off to a terrible, terrible start.
Right.
You cannot saddle me with the duty of being the optimist between us because that will not go well.
I know. I'm just a little frustrated with this property a little bit. It's a good piece of property. There's a lot of activity. There really is a ton of activity. And in years past, so this is my second season hunting it, and in years past, the farmer just let everybody and their brother hunt it and kill everything. So, I mean, for it to kind of bounce back, it's going to take a couple years anyway. But then there's always that part of me who's like, well, what? I'm dropping $2,000 plus how many thousands of dollars have I spent on gas, battery, trail cameras, stands, whatever. And I'm like, man, I could just go to Buffalo County, pay $2,400 and spend a week and shoot a monster that because they're doing all of that work and spending all of that money. But I like going out there anyway. I don't know. I talk myself in and out of it all the time. So
processor outcome.
Yeah.
Which one do you more want to be part of? Do you want to be part of the process of scouting and putting together a plan and maybe not having success, but being part of the process from cradle to grave? Or do you just want to show up?
Yeah,
well,
right.
It's literally what we just talked about with going to Europe.
Yep.
Do you want to go on a guided tour and have an itinerary put together for you and you just show up, plop your ass in a bus and walk around? Or do you want to spend 6 weeks researching best places to stay in Paddington and best restaurants on Hyde Street? And, how do you want to go about it?
Yeah.
When it comes to hunting, I'm more about the process. When it comes to traveling, let other people do that. I just want to show up and eat good food.
No, that is a good point. Since I did have you on the call, I did have some questions about the new Flex and some of these trail cameras, issues that I'm having that I'm sure are not unique to me, or maybe maybe they are. Maybe I'm just freaking stupid. And
I would never say it that way, though.
And, for clarification, everybody knows that SpyPoint Trail Cameras is one of the HuntFishTravel podcast sponsors. I did receive an allotment of cameras this year. And then because I was like, well, that's not enough, I went to Cabela's and Fleet Farm and spent my entire paycheck one day and bought a bunch more. So I feel like, so just so people know that I'm not just like brown nosing because they're a sponsor, because I don't. So I think the first question that I genuinely had is, one of my favorite spots is I had put one of the Flex cameras, and it was sending amazing photos and all this video and everything. And then the batteries ran down to about 10%. So I went out there and I opened it up and I replaced the batteries and I closed it up, and now it's not transmitting anymore. And I don't exactly understand why, because it's got great signal. It's in the perfect place, and I don't know why it wouldn't. I mean, I didn't even move it.
My guess is, and it's all I can do is guess, is when you did that, my guess is you didn't actually turn the power switch off and then turn the power switch back on after you replaced the batteries. So you walked out, you opened it up, you pulled the battery tray, you replaced the batteries, you put it back in, and you basically put the camera in limbo. The basic troubleshooting start list for any SpyPoint camera, and really probably could apply it to any other cellular trail camera too, but I'm speaking for SpyPoint, is batteries, card, firmware, power cycle. Like those are the things to check. Obviously, with the firmware, if you had a firmware update, with a Flex would be making you aware of it in the app. So that's not something you have to manually do anymore. So we can rule that portion out. SD card is unlikely to be the issue because you didn't change it. It was working. It was fine. Formatting it might still help. But my guess is because the batteries were what was messed with. If you went out there and you just popped that open and pulled the battery tray, the camera was on when that happened, and then swapped the batteries, because my guess is, knowing you, because you're you were, hurry, let's get this done, go, because you are the squirrel, right?
I know.
And
literally.
And I will self-identify because I do the same thing. Let's get in, let's get out, let's get this done. In reality, taking an extra 2 or 3 minutes to make sure you're walking away from the tree, because correct me if I'm wrong, the battery battery indicator, the percentage that it shows, hasn't changed since you put new batteries in, and it hasn't sent a photo.
Correct. Yeah, it hasn't updated at all. It's still sitting at 10%.
But to me, that tells me that, like, you could have fixed this while you were there. If you would have, instead of doing the Trent and Carry thing, go. I have 14,311 other things on my to-do list. I need to get this one done. Let's go. Take a breath. Turn the camera off. Get everything done that you need to do. Put the battery tray back in. Turn it back on. And then actually stand there, refresh the app, make sure that it communicates, make sure that it updates with the new battery status indicator. And then we put that test button on the Flex specifically to be able to stand there, push it, manually tell it, take a photo, send it to the app so that you can stand there and go, yep, got it. Might it take an extra 2 or 3 minutes? Yes. And if that camera is right out your back door, then maybe that 2 or 3 minutes, who cares? You can do it 6 times between now and dinner. But if that camera is 2 hours away and then a 40-minute hike after you get to where the truck gets parked, that 2 or 3 minutes is a pretty significant investment to make sure that you aren't having issues. Because the other thing is it's tough to troubleshoot a camera that's not in your hands.
Yeah.
Regardless. Even if you know all of the things to do, you can't do all of the things if you can't put your hands on the camera. So make sure that it's working before you walk away so that if you do, I'm an idiot. I took the old SD card out, but I didn't put the new one in. I did that last week. My neighbor wanted to try one out. He had something that was getting into his bird feeders. Hey, sure, I got one. I'll run it over real quick. We'll take a look, blah, blah, blah. Fire it up. It's connected. Cool, great. Walk away because I'm me. I know what I'm doing. I work for a trail camera company. I don't do anything wrong. And then 2 days later, why don't I have a photo? And I do the take photo at next transfer and I get nothing. And it's communicating, but I'm not getting any photos. All right, Tom, I got to come over. I got to take a look at this camera. And I open it up and immediately I see that empty SD card slot. And I call myself every name in the book because of all people on planet Earth, I should know better. But I took it out there. I set it up. It had been in my garage. I had pulled the SD card when I was cleaning everything up, and I never put a new one back in. So just keep that 4-step firmware, SD card, batteries, power cycle. Do all of that while you're there at the camera and actually have it to be able to work through that checklist. And you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble because the worst place to try to fix a camera is 200 miles away because it's not going to work.
I know. You get home and you're like, oh, dude. I've got a couple out there that are just not transmitting and they just haven't.
I do it all the time.
You know?
And 90% of the time it's because my dumbass did something stupid.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. I skipped a step. I got in a rush. I did something that wasn't right.
What about non-flex ones that don't have the test? Do the other ones have the? I don't know. I don't have them in front of me. Do the other ones have the test button in front of me too? Oh my God, can I talk? The micro SD lights, LTEs, and those. Do they have a test button?
The Link Micros don't have the test button.
They don't. Okay.
But when you run a power cycle, they spend a few minutes in detection at every transmission. So if you just you turn it on, you walk around in front of the camera and just walk around while you're on your phone, and it's going to take a photo because you're triggering it, and it'll send it. And if you're not getting those photos, then you can kind of go through that checklist again. Are you like me? Did you not put an SD card in the slot so it's not able to take the picture and store it anywhere to be able to send to you? There's still a workaround for that. Just because the test button that makes it super simple isn't there doesn't mean that you can't take a couple minutes, walk around in front of the camera, make sure that it's transmitting. Okay, cool, great. On to the next thing you go.
Do the SD cards get full? Like, is it actually copying to the SD card, or does it just use the SD card to send it over to the app?
So, yes and no. Yes, the SD cards can get full, but SpyPoint cameras all operate on something called continuous mode. So it takes a 16 gig card, somewhere between like 12 and 18,000 photos, depending on megapixels and settings and all that kind of stuff. So let's just call it 15,000 because math is dumb and I don't want to do it. So let's say 15,000 photos on a 16 gig card. That's a lot of photos. It's very unlikely that you would fill it up before you change batteries or cards or something else. But SpyPoint cameras use continuous mode. What continuous mode does is when it takes photo number 15,001, it just overwrites photo 1.
Okay. But will it delete it from the app? Then will it overwrite photo number 1 on the app?
No, as long as you if you're an Insider Club member and you've got 12 months of photo look back, the fact that it's gone from the card doesn't take it out of the app.
Okay.
you can pull that card, you take the camera down, you can pull the card, you can format your card. That image is gone forever, except for on the SpyPoint servers. You can still go into your app and see it on the SpyPoint servers.
Okay.
And once it's been transmitted, you've got that for either 30 days for non-Insider Club members or a year for Insider Club members.
All right. For the Flex, and here's one that I just actually kind of forgot about that I was even having issues with. So I requested an HD photo of one. When I go to the photo, it says problem. A problem occurred while trying to download the full HD version of the photo. Please try again.
So sometimes you can make a second request and sometimes it's just unavailable. I have a video right now that until I go and pull the card, I'm not going to be able to get it. It just depends on, there may be something kind of wonky with that card.
Okay, and that was going to be my next,
causing the issue or whatever the case may be. It happens sporadically and occasionally. Sometimes it's just something with that actual file that photo's fine. I have since requested other videos from that camera and been able to get them. But the picture of actually a fairly decent buck just down the road working a scrape, that one I was not able to get, and I will have to pull the card to get that one. That is something that is literally file specific. It's not even camera specific.
Okay. Well, and that was going to be my next question. On that same camera, I requested some full HDs of 2 different videos, and I can't even request it again. It just keeps saying an error has occurred.
It'll try, and sometimes whether it's the way it was stored or if there's some issue with that file itself, it'll just say, sorry, you can't request this one. When you pull the card, you can have it, but you're not able to get that one this way.
Okay,
so
but it is on the card.
It's still on the card.
Okay.
And until it were to be overwritten, it will be on the card. But as long as you get to it before you take 16,000 more photos, you're in good shape.
Okay, perfect. Well, then it's the same one that is transmitting still at 10% power, even though I replaced the battery. So I'll go out there, I'll swap out the SD card and see if I can't get it to go. And
don't forget to turn the power switch off and then back on, and then use that handy dandy test button.
Okay, for sure. Okay, well that makes jerk.
It's a good thing we're already friends.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. No, that makes a lot of sense then. Okay, and that makes me feel better because I was like, oh man, it's like the only damn buck really good shooter buck that I've seen out there. And I'm like, why can't I get this HD video? I'm so excited. And I'm like,
because that's the one that you want.
Of course. That's how it works.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but when it comes to Murphy's Law, he's kind of a cousin. We call Murphy a cousin in this family.
I know. What else? What other questions? Those were really the biggest ones. I'm just looking.
No, well, there was one other that you asked me about that you said we were going to talk about.
That's right.
And you said that I couldn't make you feel stupid, and I said no promises. There was that one.
That's right. And so that's right. I freaking forgot about that because he answered my question. So my question had been, I've seen I look on Facebook and Instagram and I see people with all these awesome photographs and videos of these deer, and all of mine are blurry. All of them. And then he asked me, I was like, are they at night? I said, well, yes, they are. But I have everything optimized. I got the trigger speed and everything. And he's like, well, Carrie, remember, you're a photographer and you know how this works.
Yeah. But for those that don't, and this is, I'm gonna turn my laser death ray away from Carrie and just aim it at the internet at large, because it's giving me an opportunity to get ranty, which I love so much, right? So this is routine. You will see somebody post a trail camera photo, and I don't care what brand it is. It's a nighttime photo and it's blurry, and you can tell that it's a good deer, but you can't tell how good of a deer it is because it's blurry. And somebody invariably, because it's the internet, and we all know that everyone on the internet knows everything, someone will say, oh, need a camera with better trigger speed.
Yep.
Wrong. That's not what that is. Trigger speed, we'll go into the trail camera glossary. Trigger speed is the gap in time between when the motion sensor on the camera is tripped and then the amount of time that it takes the camera to collect itself and capture a photo. So on the Flex, it's up to 0.3 of a second. So when something moves in front of the camera, it wakes the camera up, and the camera does what the camera needs to do to figure out what it has to do to make sure it takes a photo, and then it takes a photo. That is the trigger speed of the camera.
Yeah.
But what affects blurry nighttime photos is shutter speed, which is different. Whether it's digital camera or an old film camera, for those of us that are old enough to remember film canisters and 35 millimeter film, whether it's a digital sensor or an actual old film sensor, the same thing has to take place. All a camera does is capture light. When ambient light conditions are poor or low, the sensor has to be exposed longer to gather enough information. When you get a black photo, it's because the shutter speed was not slow enough to allow enough light in. On the other end of the spectrum, we've all tried to take photos like into a setting sun, and the camera literally is not capable of a fast enough shutter speed to block out enough light to not just give you that glaring sun, right? So these shutter speeds there are people that will do long exposures of multiple seconds. Have you ever seen one of these really cool landscape photos next to a river and the water is like motion blurred, like it looks like it's moving, and you're like, oh my God, how did they do that? Well, they did like a 2-second exposure. So everything that happens while the sensor is exposed, if nothing moves, then it's fine. But if anything moves in 2 seconds, then it shows up as motion blur. So let's say, for instance, to gather enough light at night, the sensor has to be exposed for 1/4 of a second, which is actually probably less than what it is a lot of times. 1/4 of a second. I want you to watch a deer the next time you're in the woods and see how fast a walking deer can move in 1/4 of a second.
That's true.
But the camera is looking at that, and where the deer started in that 1/4 second and where it ended is all going to show up. And that's what manifests as motion blur.
Gotcha.
A moving target at night is never going to be crisp and clear. You'll get that during the day because there's enough ambient light that the sensor is literally blink of an eye. That's why they say it's fast. You blink so fast, you don't even know that it got dark outside. It goes fast enough that it can capture that deer in mid-jump. It can capture that hummingbird, while it's flying in front of the camera. That's why daytime photos usually look pretty good, and nighttime photos, you need a faster trigger speed on that camera. They don't. You need to understand the physics of photography and what it takes to capture light as a camera to understand the limitations that exist. Nighttime photos on a camera that's hung on a trail, they'll let you know when deer are moving. You are not going to be able to figure out if he's got 2 or 3 kickers off the bottom of the base on his left antler. You're just not going to be able to unless he stops and turns his head and looks directly at the camera and waits for it to take the picture before moving on.
Yeah, I gotcha. And that does make sense. It really does make sense. It's just, I don't know, sometimes it's annoying. Because like you said, you get so excited, you see, oh, detected buck, and you're like, yeah, and you're like, crap, I can't even tell what it is.
Well, and I wish everyone else could have heard, like when we were talking about it before, Carrie, what's shutter speed? And then you cussed at me several times, which typically like it, you know that it's true. Like of all people, like you know that it's true.
I know.
But we get when it comes to trail cameras, we get irrational because I want to see that buck better. I want a better, you know what I mean? Like it is
of
what
course.
it is.
Yeah, I know.
And that's why all is well and we're good.
Yeah.
But it was funny because
I was like, oh.
You knew the answer.
I just didn't want it to be the answer. I wanted you to be like, oh, you just need to fix these settings and it'll be perfect.
One little setting that you changed. Exactly.
That's what I was really hoping for you. And you failed me, my friend. You failed me.
Well, not the first time, and I guarantee not the last.
I remembered another question that I asked you too. So some of my cameras have the solar panels, but none of the Flexes do. Do they come with that option? Can you order the solar panels for them, or do I just need to keep feeding it very expensive AA batteries for the rest of my life?
No. So right now the Flex there is not an integrated solar option for the Flex like there is with like the Micro S. Now we have a new product that we introduced this year, a new accessory that's our SPLB22, which is a lithium battery solar panel combo. So instead of, like, we've all kind of run those 12-volt kits, right, where you take one of the little, like the Vexlar batteries and it sits at the bottom of the tree, and then you run a solar panel up the tree, and you've got 62 wires and cords and all that stuff, and you can do it that way. This is all in one unit, and you just have the one wire because the solar panel and the battery are in that one contained unit, and then you just plug that into the 12-volt kit. Now, if you've got 12-volt kits laying around, obviously you can get a lot more life out of those than you can just a regular set of batteries as well. But right now, there's no integrated solar option for the Flex, no. But I have heard your request and have registered it with the proper people, and we're always working on new things, so we'll see what happens.
I thought about going in just getting a bunch of those rechargeable AA's, but I feel like those don't last as long as regular ones do.
Well, they don't, and we also, for SpyPoint cameras, we don't recommend using them because the voltage on them is irregular, so you can end up having more issues than not.
Okay. All right, well, I'll just keep going to Costco. The $15 a pack usually gives me one run out there because, well, I think on the app I only have like 15 cameras connected because I've got a couple of them that I just can't quite get to work, and I'm just, like you said, I just need to go through and probably reformat all the SD cards and kind of start over, but that'll give me another 4, I think, to put out there. I don't know where I'd put them, but at this point anyway, but because I'm literally like
somewhere
pretty trail camera heavy. But yeah, exactly. Once they get the rest of the corn down, it's on. I'll find some more places. Even the places that, so I went to Cabela's one day and I bought those dove stakes where you put like a dove decoy on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just took some zip ties and I strapped a couple of the cameras to one of them, like a camera to one of the stakes, and it's perfect for those corners where there really isn't a tree to put it up against, and it's just working out pretty darn well. So I'm sure I'll find some more places to put the rest of these cameras if I can get them to work. But anywho, well, that answers all my questions. Have there been any other questions that people have asked, especially about the Flex since it's come out?
I mean, you always have, especially people that are new to cell cameras, are always asking about connectivity, and it's probably the toughest part to get people to understand, kind of right off the bat, is they think they should be able to walk to whatever tree they want and strap it there and it won't connect. And the reality is, whether it's SpyPoint or insert other cellular trail camera brand here, the part of this that none of us control is the cellular network itself.
Yeah.
We are at the mercy of the cellular network that's available. And as much as we think in the year 2022, it's not 100% coverage. We've all dropped calls in places that we've never dropped a call before. We've all sat in a tree and tried to send a photo to a friend and watched our battery drain over the course of 2 hours because it just won't send the photo out from there. There's only so much of that we can control. But the thing to keep in mind is you can always just try to be more flexible. You would really be surprised. You have a tree and the camera won't connect. You'd really be surprised, sometimes moving as little as 10 or 20 feet. And you're still able to shoot pretty much the same place. But in that 10 or 20 feet, then it's able to connect and you don't have an issue. Or, the other thing is, you set it up and it works great for, 2 weeks and it's 100%, and then it misses the transmission and it shows 0% signal in the app. Well, what happened? Well, signal varies. It's not a landline. It's not constant. So just be patient. And honestly, that's one of the reasons that I recommend, there's two ways to think about this, and it kind of relates to battery life as well. If you want to maximize battery life, you typically hear people say, I want fewer transmissions a day, because it's the transmission that runs through batteries. And to some extent, yes, that's true. Where you do have a little bit of a difference, and where you may need to think about it a little bit differently, is in areas with low signal, you may actually want to do more transmissions a day, and that seems counterintuitive. Well, Trent, why would I do that? I'm going to be using more battery. I'm going to be trying to connect more often. And that actually is the purpose. If you're in a bad signal location, and let's say you've turned it down to one time a day, I only want it to try to connect and send photos once a day. And for the 5 minutes that it tries to connect one time in that 24-hour cycle, if signal is bad, every photo that it's taken for the last 24 hours is sitting there to be transferred. It's unable to make the connection because the signal at that time is poor. Now it's going to wait 23 hours, 59 minutes before it tries again. I don't want it to wait a full 24 hours to try again because I'm only transmitting once a day. I want it to try more often. It may fail, but I would rather it's trying to send smaller batches of photos more often, because my priority isn't battery life. My priority is getting the information from the camera that I need.
Okay.
So I might go through batteries a little quicker, but there's also been times where we've tested and it ends up being a wash, because sending a bigger batch of photos, it has to stay connected longer to get it through. Are you better off with 3 or 4 smaller batches, or attempting to connect 3 or 4 times, rather than putting literally all of your photos in one basket that gets dropped?
Gotcha. Okay, well, I actually do. So that's actually a really good one, because I do have one that, as of Thursday, I just noticed it's still at 100% battery life, but it's saying 0%. Hold on, let me open this up here. It's saying it's 0%, but
Signal.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like, reading through the settings.
Your thought. This is radio. This is podcast. They can't see your screen.
I do have it at sync frequency as each detection. So.
Okay. So hold on though.
Okay.
Each detection. I hate that setting. Strictly as a user. Not like Trent's taking off his SpyPoint hat and just becoming grouchy, crotchety Indiana deer hunter guy, right? I hate each detection, and here's why. How long do you think that camera waits to communicate between detections if there's no detection?
Oh. Okay, so change it to 12 times per day.
Right. I'll explain it just real quick. So part of even when you use each detection, you still have that first transfer time on there, right? Yes. No matter what, even if it's on each detection, that first transfer time is your mandated camera communication window. Let's just say I set all my cameras to communicate at 5 a.m. and then I run my schedule off 5 a.m. So let's just use that. I tell all of my cameras at 5 a.m. you are connecting. Okay? Now, if a deer walks by at exactly 5 a.m., or let's say 5:01, just for lack of a better. So at 5:01, a deer walks by. I got my 5 o'clock communication, and then I got a photo for my 5:01 photo each detection. And then 7 in the morning comes, and 9 in the morning comes, and 3 in the afternoon comes. And man, there's deer moving everywhere. Why is this camera not sending anything? And then maybe I want to do the take photo at next communication. Okay. But your next mandated communication isn't until 5 a.m. the next day. So on each detection, you could still be 23 hours and 59 minutes from the next time that camera mandates checking in. I don't like that. I can't emphasize this enough. Me personally, yes, I am blessed to be in an area where by and large my signal is not something I have to worry about often. I never run my cameras on less than 6 times communications per day. Never.
Okay.
In the dead of summer, early in the year, I'm still running 6 times. And when it hits August 1st, I'm 12 times a day. Every 2 hours, my cameras are talking to the servers so that I can see what's going on. Because if I want to change from, say, like right now is a good example. I generally, sometime in mid-October, I move everything to kind of that fall rutting pattern. So I'll move cameras over to ruts or over to scrapes. And I may put them on scrapes, but until I see them actually working scrapes, I'm not going to switch from photo to video mode. But when I see them, okay, now they're hammering it. Now they're really on the scrapes. Now they're moving. I want to move from photo to video mode. I don't want it to take 24 hours. I want to be able to tell that camera, you need to switch, and know that, no more than an hour and 59 minutes from right now, my camera is going from photo to video mode. So that's how I run it. I do not like the each detection window. And it's also, you talk about battery life, that is the most consumptive battery setting.
Okay.
Bar none, hands down. You will eat batteries because basically you're not ever allowing that camera to go into sleep mode.
Gotcha.
Think about it like your cell phone, because really that's what these are. They are, because cell phones are also now cameras. Just think of it as strapping a cell phone to a tree that automatically takes photos when it needs to. How long does your battery last when you're on your screen playing Angry Birds or whatever the kids do, whatever people are playing now? When your screen is on, you can almost watch your battery meter go down. But if you just hit lock and throw it on your nightstand and come back 3 days later, 71%.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
It's the exact same thing with cameras.
Got it. Well, I will go through and I will update all of these damn cameras to 12 times a day instead of instant. Or 6 times or however many. I guess that makes sense. It'll be curious to see if just updating that little bit, all of a sudden
I'd be curious to see how much your battery life improves right off the bat.
Right. Yeah,
at this point you've had them out long enough. You're probably 3 weeks on each detection?
Yeah. Well,
3 weeks, 4 weeks ish. So
I changed all of the batteries in August, and then I changed them again at the end of October because they were almost all low enough to be changed. So, yeah.
So, and that's just another tip in general too. Yep. Is when you get basically that's the cadence that I'm on, right? Like my goal is if I'm going to move stands or anything like that, I always try to have that done by 4th of July. And I tell myself 4th of July because it's kind of like an internal snooze. Set the alarm for 4:30, knowing damn good and well you're not going to get up till 5:15, but you're going to hit snooze 5 times. Same sort of thing, right? I'm going to tell myself July 4th I'm going to be ready to go so that when August 1st gets here and everything's done, I feel like, hell yeah, I'm on top of it. Look at me go. So that's the goal. Get stuff done July so that I can kind of let things run fallow through the summer, let deer get on a pattern and not be disturbing them. Mm-hmm. But then as I start going to the woods, usually I'll try to do one more trip. Maybe it's mowing lanes or whatever the case may be, or final lane clearing, that kind of thing. I double check everything at that point. Because once I start hunting, I'll be on the properties and I can go, okay, this battery's getting low. I'm going to walk by and replace the batteries either on my way in or my way out, right? You can do that. Yep. But sometime, depending on when your season opens, I try to lead it by 2 or 3 weeks and just make sure that all the firmware is updated to the latest version and all my batteries are fresh. Because from that point on, it's unlikely that I'm, even if my here's another misconception. People think, oh, well, new firmware came out, so my camera's not going to work anymore. It's not how it works. You have to be multiple versions of firmware behind before the camera is just like, look, I can't do this anymore. So if you're updating in September, you're not going to get to January and the firmware is so out of date that the camera won't work. You will be able to get through. And even in terms of battery life, if you're going to get 6 or 8 weeks, the chances of me not going by one of my cameras while on a hunt for if that battery starts to get low to be able to manage it is very, very, very low.
Yeah.
But just in case, if the wind is wrong or whatever the case may be, if I'm not able to get to it, I know my cameras are more than likely going to make it through the end of season and I'm good to go. So it's kind of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? Just lay that calendar out, figure out how you go into it, and just, make accommodations to do that so that you can keep those cameras going so that even if something does end up being wonky, you can still adjust and pivot.
Yep, totally. That's why we got back from Door County. I was like, I got to get out there and I just don't want to be mucking about, especially the first couple weeks of November. I want to be sitting next week, not messing with anything else. And I'm telling you, these trail cameras, they're going to be the death of me because they're so fun, but they're kind of stressful too because they stress me out sometimes with all these coyotes and raccoons and domestic cats that apparently are walking around and all these.
Well, for everything that you want to see on them, you see 10 things that you don't, right? Like,
indeed.
That's just how it works.
Yes, exactly. Although it is kind of nice knowing when the farmer's putting up, corn or taking down the corn or planting or whatever. So that is kind of nice as well. So instead of driving an hour out there to be like, oh, sorry, excuse me. But
and most of my hunting happens within about 20 minutes of where I live. And before coming to SpyPoint, I would have firmly been in the camp of, I don't really need this. The way I hunt, this isn't something that's necessary, but it's become like my ability to stay out of the woods, to not go and pull SD cards. Like, there is nothing more freeing on earth to just not be a slave to pulling SD cards. Yep. It's incredible.
Yep.
And I it's the being in the woods and seeing how that affects deer, even when we think it doesn't. Like, there's no replacing what the cell cams allow you to leave those animals alone to do.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you again for taking the time to come on. A lot of really valuable information there. I will link to all those in the show notes. I will link to past episodes that we've done with Trent, which are always amusing and interesting. And that's it. I thank you for coming on.
It's always a pleasure. It's always fun. And when I get to make fun of you a little bit, it's even better.
Oh my God. I'm totally editing out all that shit.
That's fine.
No, I'm joking.
I'll know it was said. That's all that really matters.
Awesome. Okay, people, that'll do it. Thanks for taking the time to listen in. And remember, you can find the Hunt Fish Travel podcast on any music or podcast platform. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, whatever. Whatever you listen to music on, you can find my show. You can view the photos from the Ireland trip at huntfishtravel.com/Ireland photos, all one word. You can see more of my trail camera photos on the Facebook page, facebook.com/huntfishtravel. And of course, you can find more general trail camera episodes on the podcast. Really, the easiest way is to go to huntfishtravel.com and just search for trail cameras, because I have all the episodes posted there. You can see what number it is, and if you want to listen in your podcast app, you can scroll down to the number. I've done so many of them, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to try to scroll through the podcast player looking for those search words. If you have trail camera questions or concerns, you can feel free to go to the Facebook or Twitter or Instagram post for this episode. Leave your question there. You can just leave a comment about the episode there too. Lastly, wherever you listen to these episodes, whatever platform, really a 5-star review is always appreciated. It just lets the platform know that if someone searches for a topic that I have an episode on, my episode should be the one that they listen to, which is always really helpful. The algorithms suck. They're always changing. So 5-star reviews for the podcast is always super helpful. Okay. Talk to you guys later.